Hello, welcome to a new reading vlog. I wanted to vlog just myself reading this one book. Usually I do multiple books per vlog, but this is one of my most anticipated books like ever. I've been wanting to read this book for over a year, and I'm just so excited that I have to share my reactions with you to see, because I'm so scared it's not going to be as good as I think it is. Of course, the only time to update you is when I'm driving, so please ignore the sun and how, jerky this camera is. But I'm going to start reading If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. Now, let's talk the backstory here. I read The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I feel like nobody mentions this book without mentioning The Secret History. So, sorry, my car's beeping at me. I'm not paying attention, apparently. It likes to tell me if I've swerved out of the lane. Anyway, I read The Secret History a while back. I can't even remember now, a year or two ago, and I gave it 4 stars. It was a little slow. It was a little boring in places, but I really, really did like it overall. A lot of people do. I feel like, it's classic. Apparently it's like the dark academia book. And since I liked it, I've tried other dark academia books, and what I've found is I don't like any of them. I don't think I found a single other dark academia book that I actually like. Right? So, I've tried other things set at boarding schools that are, I've tried young adult books, I've tried adult books, I've tried ones that are more, thrillers or something. I find one that is actually dark academia I actually enjoy. So my new plan is I'm going to try this book because it is supposedly the most similar thing to The Secret History. Now, people say it's not as good as The Secret History, but here's the thing. I love Shakespeare, and this book is basically a bunch of Shakespeare references, apparently. Apparently it's The Secret History, but with Shakespeare references. I don't know. The main characters are all part of an acting troupe or something. Not a troupe, but they're at an acting school, I think is what it is, a really elite school, and they're in their final year, and I guess they kill somebody, of course, because that's what happens in The Secret History. Spoiler alert. It tells you that at the beginning, though. It literally tells you that on the first page about somebody dying. But this one is apparently told from the synopsis, is what I gather. It's told from the point of view of one of the 7. There's 7 main characters or whatever, 7 main actors and actresses, and that one of them is in prison, and this is 10 years later, and they're getting out of prison because they're acquitted, I guess. It's they didn't actually commit the crime, but maybe they did, I don't know. But the inspector or detective or something that worked on the case is retiring and wants to know what really happened once and for all. So the main guy's gonna tell his story to this detective and say, here's what really happened 10 years ago. And I hear a lot that if you know a lot of Shakespeare and you've heard a lot of Shakespeare references, then you'll get the references, obviously. So I used to teach English. I taught high school English, and I even took a Shakespeare class in high school, or not high school, in college. I took a Shakespeare class, and we read a lot of Shakespeare plays in that class. So I've read a lot of the popular ones, the obscure ones. It's been a while, but I feel like my Shakespeare knowledge is pretty good. So my favorite play by Shakespeare is actually a really weird one. It was called Cymbeline. I haven't read it since college, but I remember it was one of the romance plays, and it was sort of a combination of tragedies and comedies, and that's what I loved it for. It had elements of everything, Romeo and Juliet all the way to Midsummer Night's Dream, and I thought that was really cool. So Cymbeline was my favorite Shakespeare play. But anyway, so we're gonna start this book, and I will let you know if it's any good, because like I said, I've been so anticipating it because I think it's going to be even better than The Secret History, at least for me. But I also think that since I hate dark academia, apparently I cannot find a single other one I like, that I'm kind of scared. Okay guys, quick update. We're taking the dog for a walk, and I just wanted to let you know that I'm already 26 or 27% of the way through If We Were Villains, and my thoughts are that it's pretty good. It's pretty good so far. I'm intrigued. I like the there's flashbacks to the past. There's a little bit, but they go back to the present where the guy just got out of jail. I also like this divided into acts and scenes, just like Shakespeare's plays. It truly focuses more on Julius Caesar and Macbeth so far, and I know a lot about Julius Caesar because I used to teach it in 10th grade English multiple years, and I'd had to do it 4 times a day, so I've read Caesar a lot. Macbeth, I've never taught Macbeth, and I have read it twice, but it's been over 10 years since I read it the last time, so I only have vague memories of that one. So there are a lot of cars, so I'm just having to pause because I don't want people to see me talking. So I love the characters so far, I think. But here's the thing, with The Secret History, you know which character was gonna die, right? They tell you pretty much at the beginning who they kill. And this time, I don't know who's gonna die. I'm pretty sure I know. I think it's the character that's really annoying. He's kind of the one that's in charge, and he's kind of mean, and he plays the villain usually. He's huge, he's 6'3", huge big dude. His name's Richard, which is funny because of course there's a Richard in the other book. So yeah, I think he's gonna be the villain, and I'm okay with that. If they kill him, I guess they're gonna kill him. I don't know. But the main character I feel like is wrongfully imprisoned. I feel like maybe, I mean, I'm just assuming he is. I feel like maybe all the main characters, like our very main character, Oliver, is not, I don't know, he doesn't have like a ton of personality, but he reminds me of the main character from Secret History. But in this one, the other characters, I feel like there's like 7 of them. I feel like 6 of them are going to be involved in the murder of this Richard guy. That's just my total prediction. I have no idea if it's going to come true or not. But anyway, we'll see. So far, I love the atmosphere of it. The only parts, I don't know, sometimes it gets just a little bit slow. But then when I look at how much progress I've made in the audiobook, I feel like I've not really listened to it that long, and I'm already 27% of the way done. So maybe that's a good sign for how fast I will get through this book. So yeah, I'm having a good time with it. So far, maybe more interesting than The Secret History. I have to literally spin in a circle because Ella's like tangled me up here, and yeah, I'm walking the dog. So I will keep you updated. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. So here's us going on our walk. It's basically, we stop, we smell something, we walk a few feet, we stop, we smell something else. But it's very pretty. I'll show you the lake down here. We have a pretty lake in our neighborhood, which I really love. But yeah, it's a very like pretty day out, so you know, that's nice. Well, it is time for an update, because I think the last time I updated you was when I was walking, and I don't think I was very far into this book. But I will say I'm almost halfway through, and I thought I should probably update you before I get there, like really close to being halfway through. So the book is divided into 5 acts, right? Because Shakespeare's plays are all divided into 5 acts. So like, whoa, what a revolutionary idea, right? that the author also did 5 acts. And in Shakespeare, in case you don't know, Shakespeare's 5-act plays always follow the same structure. It's like the plot. If you remember the old school plot diagram, I'll insert a picture right here, right? You had the exposition, which is act 1. You had the rising action, which was always act 2. The climax of the play was always in act 3, which of course a lot of people always, like stories nowadays, the climax a lot of times is at the end of the book. But Shakespeare's climax was in the middle. It's the thing that changed everything and drove the rest of the plot, right? Everything led to that moment, and then it caused everything else to happen. And so I knew going into act 3, which is what I just read, I read the climax just now, which is why I thought I should probably update you. We all know what the climax is. We all know, if you remotely know, of course, that this book is based on The Secret History, and you know that there are a bunch of friends who, one of their friends is really mean, and they, boy, don't they wish he would be gone. It's like, well, obviously they're going to kill him. I didn't know how they were going to kill him, if they were going to straight up murder him, if it was going to be an accident. I didn't know how it was going to go down. But I guaranteed it was going to happen in Act 3. Because, and like I said, this is not a spoiler, because it's literally like, that's what the book is. Like, it might even tell you in the plot synopsis. I mean, who knows? But in the 4th part of the plot structure is the falling action. So it's going to be the fallout of the big event from the climax. And then the 5th act is going to be the resolution, just how it all wraps up. And of course, this being kind of like a tragedy, I don't know if more people are going to die. I mean, that's what happened in, you know, most of his other plays, where every single person dies. So okay, I like it. I do like this book. I like it better than some of the other dark academia books I have read. I'm also simultaneously reading the book An Academy for Liars, which I have another vlog for. I don't know if it's out yet or not, but I'm reading that one too, and this is way better. So maybe that's why I'm liking it. But then, so when I compare it to other dark academia books, it's better, which is what I was hoping for, right? Like, I was like, do I even like dark academia? Let's find out. Let's read the next best one, apparently, after The Secret History. This is the one that people always talk about. I hear nothing but good things. But then I hear everybody say it's not as good as The Secret History. And I mean, maybe it's unfair to compare it to that, right? Like, why are we all, like, why can't we talk about it without being in the same sentence as the other book? But I will say, I feel like this one is not as well written, I guess. Like, I mean, it's fine, the writing's fine, but somehow it's not got the little mundane, like, yes, if you read The Secret History, a lot of people are gonna say it's really, really boring. Do I have my copy of it over here? You know what? So I don't have to keep saying the title, I'll just point to this. This book is dense and long and like 20 some hours of audiobook. It's like 500 pages with itty bitty font. This book is very, very long. So yeah, this is what it looks like. So this book, first of all, let's smell it. It's so floppy, it won't flip right. I don't know, it doesn't really smell like anything. This book was better written, in a sense. Like, I mean, it's so funny because it is so dense and it is so long. I mean, it's almost twice as long. Not quite twice as long, but like getting close to that. Like, much, much hours longer than We Were Villains. But this book, it's like it needed to be longer, because so much of it is just the little trivial stuff, but it all leads up to the big things, and it's a lot about the characters, like inner conflicts and stuff, and a lot about their relationships with each other. Whereas I feel like If We Were Villains is more just a little bits of that here and there, but mostly it's like, well, okay, let's just get to the part where they're going to kill the person. Now I'm assuming it's like, okay, they're going to try to cover it up or whatever. They're going to get in trouble. They're maybe going to have to commit another murder to hide it. I don't know. But I can just see that it's not, I don't know. I don't even know how you describe this. It says it's kind of like a psychological thriller. It is, but also it's like a slice of life kind of, because you learn like every little detail right about these people's lives. But somehow that's what makes it good. Like it seems like a modern classic kind of, whereas If We Were Villains just seems like a really good little story, you know, like it's not a modern classic, I guess is the difference. So it's not that it's poorly written, it's just, it's not this, it's not, but I don't know that it's fair to compare it to this, because we're not comparing other dark academia to this, right? Like I'm not going to compare Academy of Liars to this for sure. It just happens to be a similar plot, and that's, I guess, why people compare it. So, compared to other dark academia, better. Compared to this, just not as good, like writing in general. But anyway, I'm still liking it. I actually wish there were more Shakespeare references, or somehow it was, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not as fresh up on my Shakespeare. Maybe there are like little hidden Easter eggs or something in there that I could catch. That's what I wanted. But so far I'm not, like, it's just overt. It's like, okay, let's literally perform parts of this play. And like let's put the exact dialogue of the play in there, you know, or have them quote Shakespeare exactly. And it's really obvious they're quoting Shakespeare. I thought it'd be really cool if they like threw in little quotes from Shakespeare that we didn't, you know, they didn't say were actually Shakespeare quotes. It wasn't obvious that they were, but like if you'd read Shakespeare, you would know that's a Shakespeare quote. I don't know. Somehow that would have been cooler. But anyway, I'm going to keep going. Like I said, I'm 50%. I'll let you know if the falling action gets more exciting. Maybe it will. Maybe it'll take a turn and like something crazy will happen. Because right now I expected every single thing to happen that has happened pretty much. I mean, there was a little kind of romantic subplot that I kind of didn't expect. But I mean, it's not much. I promise. It's not like a romance or anything. But just like a couple characters getting together. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't expect that. But other than that, pretty predictable. Hello and welcome to the end of this very short video. I feel like I did not vlog enough of my reactions throughout this book, but I have finished the book If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. And I think this is the same place I did the last clip in, so sorry, this is a different day, as evidenced by, you know, different clothes and stuff. So I wanted to give you a final review, a final update. I wound up giving this book 3.5 stars. And the reason it didn't wind up being 4 stars or being higher is because I just didn't feel like it really went anywhere at the end. Like I was hoping it would build up to some other big event happening or something. Like obviously we know at the beginning of the book that the main character, you know, was in prison for 10 years and he's being released. So clearly it's building up to him being arrested and then getting out. And you assume that he's, you know, well, you know, he's not guilty. Like it tells you that pretty much right up front, right? Like he didn't murder anybody or have any part in it. I mean, sort of, but not really. So you know it's not him. So you're like, well, then are you going to find out who did do it? Like, it's literally exactly who you think it is. Like nothing's a surprise. But what got me, now, not that it would have been 4 stars anyway, but there was never a chance it could have been 4 stars because of the last line of this book. The last line of this book is so ridiculous. Like I wish it had ended with a Shakespeare quote and the whole thing's trying to be like so dark and, you know, it's atmospheric and very much secret history. So the ending needed to reflect that. And then it's like, the last line makes it sound hopeful. I can't tell you what happens because it'd be a spoiler, but there's like something bad that happens, which is also ridiculous because then the main character should have totally done something different so that the bad thing didn't happen. I can't explain to you what I mean because it would be a spoiler, but it's really stupid of the main character to do what he did at one point because then something bad would not have happened to someone else and he should have known that. So it just seemed very contrived. But then it turns out the bad thing didn't happen to the other character because that's what the last line tells you. It's like, but there's hope, basically. And then it's like, oh, and I mean, not that they're going to live happily ever after, but it kind of is like, but they're going to kind of live happily ever after. And you're like, what? This whole book, you've been through all this stuff. This book cannot end happily. That negates everything that just happened. Like what? These people are supposed to be like traumatized by what they did in the past. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, you know, but it'll be fine. No, not really that it'll be fine, but they're going to continue on with their lives. And I don't know. The ending just didn't work for me. Now let's talk about the inevitable, which is comparing it to The Secret History. And I feel like we have to. I know we should, you know, talk about the book on its own, which maybe, you know, if you had never read The Secret History, I just wonder if I'd never read it, would I have liked it If We Were Villains any better? Maybe because, like I said, I do like the Shakespeare angle. If you really, really like Shakespeare and like theater and stuff, maybe you would like that better than this one. But it needed to be longer. If it was going to try to do what it did, like, and really delve into the characters' feelings about this horrible act that they have committed, then it needed to be longer, because this is like, I think I looked it up and it was like 21 hours, something like that, 20 hours. And If We Were Villains is 13 hours for the audiobook. So obviously it's, you know, a lot longer. I think it's getting close to, no, maybe it was even more. Maybe it was like close to twice as much. I don't know. Anyway, this book is a lot longer than If We Were Villains. So I think if it had been longer, it would have worked. And honestly, this one, even though it's so long, it does seem to go by fast, but it was necessary because you needed it to get inside these people's heads and like their crazy lives that they're in. And so everything that was happening in the other one, I just didn't get the vibes that the you know, the bad thing that they did really ate at them, basically. And things just, it was like, okay, well, you know, clearly this one guy was sad about it and that's why he overdosed on drugs or whatever, you know. Okay, it's like, well, clearly he was upset then. And there's like, you know, one bad thing for each person that kind of happens because of the event, you know, the crime that they had committed. I also feel like the character relationships were weird, because towards the end, it would just, I don't know, or not even towards the end, just like the whole second half of the book, it'd be like, oh, by the way, so-and-so's kind of in love with so-and-so. And you're like, wait, what? And this happened like 3 times, I think it was, that you're like, oh, wait a minute, what? And it was just really strange. Like, I didn't see some of these things coming, and you're just like, oh, okay. All right, then I guess that's okay. But it was bizarre. So I don't know. I also felt like none of the main characters seemed very real to me, unlike in The Secret History, where they seemed very real because you were with these people for so long and you were with them for all the mundane tasks that they had to do. Maybe that's it. Like, this was almost like a, what's that called, where you follow them just throughout their like daily lives? I don't know. I can't remember what that's called now. I ran 5 miles this morning and I just cannot think ever since. But that, you know, where it's just like following them through their mundane daily lives, in addition to all the bad stuff that happens. But in this other book, it's like every scene, something big happens that's important to like the one plot. And maybe that's it too. I think I like books that have more going on in them and don't just have one plot, you know, like there's multiple plot lines, threads that do all connect, obviously, but then there's like a lot going on with each person or whatever. They've each got their own conflict. Well, in this one, I mean, there's really one conflict. Like, there's one conflict and everybody's kind of in on it, and so therefore nobody else has anything interesting to do. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe there's just not enough going on for them to do. But in this one, it was the same thing. There was one conflict, but it worked. So I don't think I'd recommend this though to everybody. This one, The Secret History, just because it is so dense and a lot of people aren't going to like it because they're going to say it's boring. But it really is more of a classic. If you like classics, which I do, I think this is the one for you. Maybe if you try this and don't like it, maybe then try If We Were Villains. And you might like the Shakespeare aspect too. I mean, they did wind up quoting Shakespeare a lot, but like I said, it was so obvious that they were quoting Shakespeare each time that I thought it would have been cool if they'd worked in a little bit more throughout, that it wasn't so obvious they were quoting him. But obviously they couldn't do that. I mean, Shakespeare is pretty obvious when it's Shakespeare because he, you know, talked, it was a little different than our modern language. So I don't know how they could have done it, but I don't know. It seemed like it was trying too hard just to work in random Shakespeare quotes. But okay, anyway, enough of me rambling. So I want to give this book 3.5 stars. I didn't like totally dislike it. I just felt like it was kind of there. And I think my answer to my original question about do I even like dark academia, the answer is no. I've never found a book that has been 4 stars that's dark academia except for this one. And there was only 4, so I've never had a 5-star. I recently read An Academy for Liars by Alexis Henderson when I had the ARC for that, and I gave it 3 stars. And then, yeah, I've not really liked a single other dark academia. So if you have any recommendations for books that you think I should try, because I have tried like A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. I DNF'd it. I didn't like it so much. So I don't know. Maybe it's just not for me, but maybe I'll give it one more shot sometime when somebody tells me that I would like a certain book. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down below if you have any suggestions for me and if you had similar thoughts too, If We Were Villains or what. So thank you guys. Talk to you again later. Bye.